The highest possible stage in moral culture is when we recognize that we ought to control our thoughts. It is impossible to conceive of this immense and wonderful universe as the result of blind chance or necessity. I am not apt to follow blindly the lead of other men. Even people who aren't geniuses can outthink the rest of mankind if they develop certain thinking habits. The love for all living creatures is the most noble attribute of man. Besides love and sympathy, animals exhibit other qualities connected with the social instincts which in use would be called moral. The most important factor in survival is neither intelligence nor strength, but adaptability. The world will not be inherited by the strongest. It will be inherited by those most able to change. We stopped looking for monsters under our bed when we realized that they were inside us. If I had my life to live over again, I would have made a rule to read some poetry and listen to some music at least once every week. Great is the power of steady misrepresentation. To till an error is as good a service as, and sometimes even better than, the establishing of a new truth or fact. A moral being is one who is capable of reflecting on his past actions and their motives, of approving of some and disapproving of others. How paramount the future is to the present when one is surrounded by children. A man's friendships are one of the best measures of his worth. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, not the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change. It is not the biggest, the brightest, or the best that will survive, but those who adapt the quickest. One general law leading to the advancement of all organic beings, namely, multiply, vary, let the strongest, live, and weakest die. In the long history of humankind, and animal kind too, those who learn to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. A man who dares to waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life. This preservation of favorable variations and the rejection of injurious variations I call natural selection, or the survival of the fittest. Man tends to increase at a greater rate than his means of subsistence. A scientific man ought to have no wishes, no affections, a mere heart of stone. On the ordinary view of each species having been independently created, we gain no scientific explanation. Intelligence is based on how efficient a species became at doing the things they need to survive. I love fools' experiments. I am always making them. I am turned into a sort of machine for observing facts and grinding out conclusions. Such simple instincts as bees making a beehive could be sufficient to overthrow my whole theory. Everything in nature is the result of fixed laws. Nothing exists for itself alone, but only in relation to other forms of life. Man selects only for his own good. nature only for that of the being which she tends. If the misery of the poor be caused not by the laws of nature, but by our institutions, great is our sin. What a book a devil's chaplain might write on the clumsy, wasteful, blundering, low, and horribly cruel work of nature. Animals, whom we have made our slaves, we do not like to consider our equal. The more one thinks, the more one feels the hopeless immensity of man's ignorance. Free will is to mind what chance is to matter. I see no good reasons why the views given in this volume should shock the religious views of anyone. It is a cursed evil to any man to become as absorbed in any subject as I am in mine. Blushing is the most peculiar and most human of all expressions. There is grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers having been originally breathed by the Creator into a few forms or into one. My mind seems to have become a kind of machine for grinding general laws out of large collections of facts. Man is descended from a hairy-tailed quadruped, probably arboreal in its habits. The young and the old of widely different races, both with man and animals, express the same state of mind by the same movements. The very essence of instinct is that it's followed independently of reason. Such simple instincts as bees making a beehive could be sufficient to overthrow my whole theory. The mystery of the beginning of all things is insoluble by us, and I, for one, must be content to remain an agnostic. The survival of preservation of certain favored words in the struggle for existence is natural selection. Building a better mousetrap merely results in smarter mice. There is no fundamental difference between man and animals in their ability to feel pleasure and pain, happiness and misery. One hand has surely worked throughout the universe,